everyone. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to Shannon Talbot, Certified Health, Life, and Transformational Coach. Shannon, as a former corporate leader in our industry, started her own wellness and coaching company, Path to Presence, to help working professionals maximize their well-being and success across all areas of their life. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Shannon. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Louise. Thank you, Nabs, and thank you all of you for tuning in today. I know this is a very busy time of year, so thank you so much. And we're going to kick it off with a really great video that Nabs did with cassette. So I will play that now.
Hi. Yes, I'm just a simple cracker, lightly salted, low in fat. But I have some things to tell you, 'cause you might not have realized that. A 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, this job can break you. If you let it, it'll take and take some more. When will you open up your eyes and get it? It's 10 p.m. time to head for the door. You look like shit. Have you heard of sleep? You're falling apart and you're in too deep. Whiskey and drugs, they might numb the pain, but nothing will change.
Well, that pain in your stomach,
the ache in your head,
the soul-crushing moments make you envy the dead. These are all signs that it might be the time for a well-deserved rest. Your friends hate your guts, 'cause you're never there. You cancel and now they don't care. You missed your mom's birthday, maybe give her a call. She's worried about you. Does it matter at all? There's always a brief, there's always a deadline. But you need some help, it's so true. And if your boss doesn't understand, you can tell him a cracker just said, fuck you. This job can break you. If you let it, it'll take and take and take and take some more. When will you open up your eyes and get it? It's 2 a.m. time to head for the door. Let's go.
Okay, can everyone hear me okay? I think my mute's back. All right, so again, thank you so much. And before we dive in, I wanted to do a quick poll just to see, who can relate to that woman in the video, who's feeling the burnout. So if you turn to your screens, we are going to do a quick poll for you to answer. Around how burnt out are you feeling? Let's see. Give it another few seconds, make sure everyone gets their vote in. All right, last call. Anyone who wants to get their vote in? Okay, interesting. So let's see the results. So it looks like the majority of you are around a 5. So you are burnt out, but managing. And then we have a few, a few across the board. So thank you for participating. And sorry, there we go. Let's get off that polling screen. Okay, so burnout is at an all-time high right now, and can be especially exhausting this time of year. So I'm honored to be here today to share some tools and tips to help you beat it so you can have more energy, more motivation, and more balance in your life, whatever that may look like for you. And I love that you're all kind of in that middle, you're managing, you're burnt out, but managing, because these tips will just hopefully help you to get to feeling more energy, feeling more energetic, because then it's not quite as much work for everybody. All right, so what to expect today. I'm not sure how many of you were able to attend the great panel that NABS held 2 weeks ago with some of the leaders across the industry, but I really want to build off of that today. And I want you walking away today, understanding what burnout is and how to recognize it, learning strategies to beat burnout, getting tips to sustain and fit them in. That's where we tend to fall short a little bit. I want you to walk away with action steps. And what fun would a holiday session be if we didn't have prizes? So please stay to the end and you have a choice to win some gift cards for the LCBO and Starbucks. All right, so let's talk about burnout's definition and signs. So burnout, by definition, is emotional, mental, and physical exhaustion caused by excessive and prolonged stress. And now I'd like to take a look at some of the primary causes that fit into this. And, I'd invite everyone, if you want to do, put any thoughts in the chat, I would love to hear from all of you if you can think of any specific examples of what could contribute to burnout, what can contribute to this stress. If you want to go ahead and put any examples in the chat, that would be great. Juggling work-home deadlines, work-life balance, always, yep. Sleep, end of year, health, COVID, that's a big one. Dishes, yeah, great. Love these answers. Okay, cynicism towards your job, a really great one. So let's start here with guilt. Guilt is a big contributor to burnout, whether you feel guilt about work, guilt about your family, guilt about just wanting to prioritize yourself more and you can't. Guilt is a really big one, no matter what it is. Perfectionism. This was a one that was mentioned in the panel a couple weeks ago, especially in this industry. We strive to be perfect. We strive for perfection. We want to be producing that best work, putting our best quality work out there. So perfectionism is another big one. Lack of purpose. So this is really what this is thinking about how does your work contribute to the bigger picture? Does it line up with your values? Do you understand how you are contributing with your work? The next one, constant stress. So while stress can be both positive and negative, a bit of stress can help us. It can motivate us. It can get us over the finish line. It can really help us. But when the stress is constant, when we don't know how to manage it, when it doesn't go away, that is when it can contribute to burnout. Lack of support and resources. So not having anyone to help, not having any tools to turn to help cope with burnout and stress. The next one, working with others who are burnt out. So I don't know how many of you can relate, but I'm a morning person and I wake up in the morning with energy and I'm excited and I talk too much and my family, I drive my family crazy, but I might get on to work back when I was, in the advertising industry last year, I might jump onto my computer, get on my Zoom call and I'm excited and everyone else on the call is like this, or their cameras are off and they're miserable, they're exhausted, they're complaining, a big ask came in that, no one knows how it's going to be delivered on time. That can be really contagious. So we tend to feed off the energy of those around us. So if everyone on our team, if those in our family, at our house, if people are burnt out and low energy and miserable, we're going to feed off that and we're going to tend to lean into that a little bit more. lack of appreciation. This goes with lack of purpose. You know, you can be working really hard, doing a really great job, but if no one notices, you might be questioning, why the hell am I doing this? Like, for what? No one even says thank you anymore. You know, all those types of things can build up and make us feel like we're not, we're not being appreciated. And the last one I would say is probably the biggest one, this unrealistic work goals and or workload. You know, it could even be you start the week, you think you have a really great week, and, you know, someone quits or a big project comes in or a deadline changes and it kind of blows everything out of the water. So that can really, if we have that consistently, that can also really contribute to burnout. Okay, so burnout signs. So I like to think of burnout signs as the low fuel light on a car. So they are the early indicators, those early warning signs that you're starting to burn out, but you need to know what to look for. So burnout can show up in all different ways, and each of us is different. So burnout could be illness, physical pain, fatigue, insomnia, lack of motivation, boredom, irritability, and anger. But what you want to do is you want to start to create that awareness to notice when you are really stressed, when you are really anxious, what happens? Does your eye start to twitch? Do you get a cold notoriously every year around the holidays when you're run down? What is that for you? And I like to share, I have a pretty silly story that for me, my burnout sign, which took me until last year to figure it out, and I worked in pretty stressed jobs across banking and advertising for 17 years. And it took me until my 17th year to figure this out. But basically my neck would get stuck like this and I would look like an idiot and I'd have to turn my whole body and it would hurt and I would end up having to leave work and come home. But it took until my neck getting stuck for me to then actually slow down and notice that. And thank God it hasn't happened during COVID, because I don't know how I would do that on Zoom. But what are your signs? So what changes have you noticed in your body, physically, mentally, and emotionally when you're under chronic stress or anxiety? What patterns do you see repeating? Because the first step to beating burnout is knowing your signs. You just, everyone take a minute and just think about, you know, is there something the same time of year where something happens? And what are those signs? And I also want to dive in. Louise introduced me a little bit at the beginning, but I wanted to share a bit about my story. And this is not a flattering nor good quality picture. And I'm a bit embarrassed for any creatives seeing this picture right now. But this was me in May 2020. And I took this picture on purpose and I wanted to share it because I wanted to remember this moment in my life. I was at one of my all-time lows. You know, we were in COVID. We had no idea what was happening. My family, we moved 3 hours away from Toronto to live with my parents so they could help with my kids. I was working 12 hours a day, evenings and weekends, you know, all the projects that came up with COVID and my client I was working with. And basically what happened was every night, once everyone went to bed and my work was done, I would open a bottle of wine and I would open a bag of chips and I would binge watch shows like Tiger King. And I did it every single night. I resented my family, my work, I resented the pandemic, and I was blaming everyone else in my life for how miserable I was. But I also thought I could push through. I also thought, hey, you know, in 2 weeks, like everything will be back to normal. A year later, and I thought, things were going to slow down, that this was just because it was, new times for everybody. I also never exercised. I never had time to exercise. I didn't have time to eat healthy. I was a yes person, so I never set boundaries, especially at work. And I also set very high and unrealistic expectations for myself and for those around me. And lastly, I never unplugged from work. You would always see me with my phone in hand, checking it. My phone vibrated. I had to see, like, was it a client? Was it my boss? Was it something to do with my kid? I couldn't not look at my phone right away. So I don't know if this sounds familiar to anyone. I know we all deal with stress differently and burnout differently. Feel free to pop a note in the chat if you can relate to this or the video at the start. But the other thing I didn't do was I didn't share how I was feeling. I didn't let on that I was exhausted. I was demotivated. You know, I kind of hope my old boss is on today because she can contest, but we would get on a call. We had calls a lot every morning and I'd be like, I'm great. Yeah, everything's great. It's fine. And I put on this facade and I never asked for help work-wise because how could I when all of us were in the same boat, when we all were feeling the pressure and the stress and the lack of clarity and certainty. But I also knew something had to change. So I slowly started prioritizing my health and my well-being, and little by little, things got better. I got more energy. I felt more joy. I found more time and started to pursue things on the side, like becoming a health and life coach that I am now. And I also started setting better boundaries at work and having more open, honest communications. So all this to say that our work environment definitely plays a factor in burnout. And I'm going to share some strategies on that in a minute. But what we do and what we choose to prioritize is also equally important when we're looking at our lives and our well-being. Okay, so let's get into the strategies. So I'm going to share strategies first for the workplace and then for you personally. And I wanted to say that most of these will not come as a surprise, which shows we actually all do know ways to reduce burnout. The problem is following through, finding the time, sustaining them. So after I share the strategies, I'll share some tips for that too. All right, let's look at the workplace. First one, appreciation. So this is twofold. We want to appreciate others. We also want to appreciate ourselves. So I would invite all of you to take a moment and think of something you've done in the last week that you are proud of. And feel free to share it in the chat, write it down, send a note to a coworker. But I want you to take a moment of something you, only you, not your team, not your partner, not your kid, that's something you have done that you're proud of. And the reason that I'm asking you to do this is the more we focus on what is going right versus what could have gone better, the more motivated we will follow through. We will feel to follow through on our goals. You know, I like to say when we feel crappy, we make crappy decisions. And when we feel good, we make good decisions. So the more we can look at what is going well and leverage that, the better off we'll be. And then next, I invite you to take a moment and think of 3 people at your work who have been putting in a lot of effort lately. Make a plan to let them know you appreciate them in the next 24 hours. And either give them a call, send them a note, but let them know they're appreciated. Okay, clear job descriptions and asks. So as marketers, you are all incredible salespeople. You do an amazing job at selling a new hire on a role or selling a not so fun project to your team. But who wants to work in a job that doesn't live up to how it was sold? And the same for an unglamorous project. So the clearer we can be with things like new hires from the get-go or new asks from the get-go, you know, we'll find ourselves in a better position. We won't find ourselves partway down and either having to rehire for that person because it isn't what they expected, or having to restart a project because it wasn't what, you know, the person thought it was. So especially in a virtual world, it is easy for instructions to get lost in translation. You know, have more calls. Check that the team understands by asking them to explain the task back to you. Share when you'd like something back by and ask if they need help prioritizing everything on their plate to fit the new ask in. And again, you know, if you're not sure what the ask is, say so, get clarity. Again, this is, you know, sometimes we feel nervous. We don't want to look like an idiot, or we feel like we should know what our boss is telling us, or our partner is telling us, or our client is telling us. But the worst is when we get, you know, 90% of the way done to find out it was not what the person was looking for. And we just have to start all over again. And then lastly, I would say, and this is one that came up on the panel as well, is be mindful of make work projects. So the clients I work with right now, we do an exercise to look at what is energy giving and what's energy draining. And one of the biggest energy drainers that they all share is make work projects. They don't see its purpose and it can be really time consuming. So really, make sure you're evaluating all your asks you're giving to people and that they do have a purpose. Okay, next one, set and manage reasonable expectations. So how many of you have had a recent scenario where somebody came to you with a ridiculous timeline? Can put a note in the chat. I'm sure it's most of you in this industry. And it probably happens way more, way more than you'd like. Oh, yes, all the time. I love it. Yes, this is, yeah. So this strategy, I wish could be really simple, but I feel this is one of the strategies that everyone in this industry has to work on as a whole to really see a shift. And the more we can stick to normal working hours and realistic turnaround times, the better. We have service level agreements for a reason. Can we stick to them? And this is where those tough questions need to be asked in order to help set more reasonable expectations. How can the team work less late evenings and weekends? Can you implement shift work due to the nature of the business? Is the deadline being given, either by your client or your partner, is it flexible? Could you make a compromise? If your team is well rested and working more manageable hours, how might their energy, focus, and productivity increase? How might the quality of work change? And it's looking at that side to see, is it worth it? Will it outweigh the other side? Okay, another one that was raised 2 weeks ago that I loved is to stop rewarding the wrong behaviors. So I don't know about your workplaces or whatnot, but pulling an all-nighter and being a workaholic should no longer be badges of honor. We really should look at rewarding things like better work-life balance, healthy lifestyle habits, and sticking to boundaries. Yes, yeah, this is a big one, right? Like, how many times I've done it too, like, oh yeah, we pulled an all-nighter last night, like, woohoo. No, we have to stop that, right? Or make it absolutely minimal. Does your company encourage failure and reward effort versus result? So again, letting your people know it's okay to fail. We do not have to be perfect. And the more we can reward the right behaviors, the less pressure people will put on themselves to be perfect and the less guilt they'll feel when they're not. Okay, this is the last one for the workplace. So for any leaders on this call, parents, anyone who really sets an example for somebody else, I ask you, what example are you setting for your team? When it comes to work, are you letting them know it's okay to log off at 6, but then you send emails throughout the evening? Do you work nonstop on vacation or reward people who do check in while on vacation or who do work while on vacation? Do you push back on unrealistic deadlines and asks, or do you say yes and then figure out what it will take to meet them? Do you share when you're exhausted and stressed and what coping mechanisms you use personally? I think this is one we can really all start sharing a bit more about. And what works for me might not work for you and vice versa. But the more we can share and people can feed off of that, the better. And then do you also share the failures the team had, what they learned from it? If your team is more energetic and motivated, what would that do for your culture, your quality of work, and your team morale? And how could people's time and energy be better spent if they're not dealing with employee turnover? How much money would that save the company? How would the quality of work improve? All right, any questions on workplace strategies? Any comments? Okay, well, feel free to put any questions. There will probably be time at the end too for if anyone has any questions. All right, moving on to personal. And I know some of you on here you're incredible at these, and other people just need some gentle reminders and, just need to maybe get back into new habits. Okay, so the first one here is defined purpose. And I will caveat this by saying we are always going to have a part of our job we do not like. It's just the nature of it, whether it's at home, at work, we are never going to love 100% of it. But if you really are feeling like a lack of joy, a lack of passion in your work, can you ask for more fulfilling projects? Can you look to volunteer either inside or outside of work about something you're passionate about? If you are really miserable in your role, can you look and see what else there is at your company before jumping ship? I know so often, and I'm guilty of this too, I would get burnt out in my role and I would think, hey, it'll be better at the next company. Sure, maybe for the first 6 months, but then if you don't implement any strategies, you're probably just going to be back to where you were. All right, sleep. Question for all of you. Who knows how many hours of sleep we need each night? Eight to 10? At least 6? All right, so we actually need 7 to 9 hours a night. So you guys were super close. And it all depends on you, what your body needs. But in addition to quantity, we also need a good quality of sleep. And some ways to get that are, and no one likes the first one, but it is a fact, do not use electronics an hour before bed. You will have a better sleep. Your brain will be calmer and you'll be able to shut off and go into a deeper sleep sooner. That's a hard one, I get it, but it works. Are you somebody who has thoughts going a mile a minute before bed, or you're doing your to-do list or thinking about your calendar? Can you keep a journal beside your bed and do a brain dump before you go to sleep at night, and have it there handy so that when you wake up in the morning, you can look at it? Try not to eat 2 hours before bed. And I know this time of year, you might be attending more holiday parties and socializing a bit more. So just trying to drink water as much as you can with your alcohol will really help you have a better sleep as well, because alcohol sends us on a lovely blood sugar roller coaster. And then I know somebody mentioned earlier about the news causing burnout, and it is so true. So if you are going to watch TV before bed, please try not to watch the news. Also, nor should you do it first thing in the morning. We want to end the day and start the day on a positive note. And unfortunately, just, well, especially now, the news does not tend to have a positive spin on it. And lastly, one little thing you can do is set an intention for the next day before going to sleep. So, you could be laying in bed going, yeah, tomorrow's going to be a kick-ass day. I'm going to have a great day tomorrow. If you think that, and that's your last thought before going to sleep, studies show you'll have a better day the next day. Okay, mindfulness. So there's lots of ways to practice mindfulness. But does anyone know how long it takes our bodies to go from a stress state to a relaxed state? Anyone want to guess how many minutes? No? Are you worried it's a lot? Maybe 20? Okay. All right, 30. Okay. So 2 minutes. You can do a breathing exercise of just doing a nice long inhale, hold at the top, and exhale for 2 minutes. And that will take you from a stress state to a relaxed state. So, this could be done before a big meeting, before a big presentation, at the start of your day, at the end of your day. But really, everyone has those 2 minutes that they can find in their day for breathing. Other ways to practice mindfulness are meditation, yoga, being present, which really is just focusing on the task at hand. We're so great at multitasking, especially in this virtual world, but that doesn't actually help us. And so the more we can be present and be mindful, it actually helps our brain focus on the present and not worrying or stressing about the past or the future, which can conserve our energy. All right, move your body. So 20 minutes a day is all we really need, which will do wonders for your body, mind, and soul. And if you have trouble getting motivated to exercise, you can, think back to when you were younger. Was there an activity you used to do, like a physical activity that didn't feel like exercise? Could you start to do it again? And I know it's December, it's winter almost, it's cold, it's dark. It's hard to find the motivation, especially now with, socializing, parties. But if you can work in just 20 minutes, it will do a world of good. Things like skating, a dance party, a kitchen dance party works, skiing, running, cycling, stretching, a brisk walk, listening to a good podcast or playlist. And also, how many video calls actually need to be video calls? Could you change one of your calls to a phone call, a status call where maybe you don't need your notes or anything handy? Could you change that into a walk and go for a walk during it? So the more we can do an activity we enjoy, the more motivated we will be to follow through on it. Jenna shared a self-care calendar. Oh, amazing. Thank you, Jenna. Everyone wants to check that out in the chat. Okay, this is the one that tends to be a bit trickier. Boundaries are hard to set, personally and professionally, but we have to set them. Our sanity depends on it. So here, what I invite you to do is take a look at your calendar and your to-do list for the upcoming 2 weeks. How many things have you committed to because you want to versus because you felt you should or you have to? So anytime you feel you should, ask yourself, you could take a step back and say, what is the worst case scenario? If I say no, if I push back, then decide if you can live with it or not. So there's always going to be, again, this is like, the work, there's always going to be things that we have to do that maybe we don't want to do. It's revenue generating. It's, something that we have to help our elderly parents, take them to an appointment, whatever that may be for you. There are always going to be these things we have to do, but there's also going to be lots of other things that we don't have to do, but we say yes to out of guilt, or we say yes to because we feel we should. And those are what we need to start pushing back on. Also, if a client asks for something to be turned around, everyone's saying, yes, this happens quite a bit. A client asks for something to be turned around or partner in a ridiculously short amount of time, and say over a weekend. Can you ask why? Can you discuss options to see, maybe there's a really good reason, which will help the team then want to work on it, but maybe they don't need it that quickly and you can push back. So we need to get more comfortable with setting boundaries and creating new norms for our work. We don't want to see, all of you are out of 5 right now. We don't want to see that going up. We want to see that going down. All right, communicating. I don't know how many of you are in this boat, but, I used to be in this boat, feeling we have to pretend everything is okay. Leave our personal challenges at home, separate work and personal. And if there's one thing the pandemic taught us, it's okay to have your personal life bleed into your professional life. We are not robots with on-off switches. We are human beings with real feelings. And the more we can bring our full selves to work, the happier we'll be. So here I challenge you to start communicating more openly and honestly. Communicate your boundaries, say no. And people can't always see when you're struggling, especially in a virtual world. Maybe we could see it earlier, like previously, if someone slumped at their desk or their body language, how they're walking. Now we have, this little box to look at over, and it's hard to see if they're struggling or if you're struggling. They may not know. So ask for help. Don't be ashamed. And if your boss discounts you for it, or if someone else thinks, you're weak, that's on them, not you. And I heard this quote last week that I just loved. That is by George Bernard Shaw. That's the single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. So the single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. So, and I think this becomes really apparent in any relationships, right? You think, how could you not know I was upset? Like my body language said it all. And the other person, what do you mean? I had no idea. You know, we think that we're communicating how we feel, but we may not be. And people are not mind readers, especially this time of year when their brains may be going a mile a minute. So if you feel overwhelmed, if you feel exhausted, tell someone, question those ridiculous deadlines or asks, and stick to your boundaries. Okay. The next one, having a hobby outside of work or your family. So what we want to do here is make sure you have activities in your schedule that bring you energy, especially those weeks when you're feeling drained. So do you have a hobby? Do you have something you really enjoy? Or is that something you need to put on your list for, say, 2022? Find a hobby. And if you are in the boat where you're not quite sure, you need to find a hobby, you know, is there something you've always wanted to try? Do you want to learn a new instrument, a craft, a new language? You know, hopefully next year, hopefully, I was going to do my fingers crossed, you know, we can travel again. We can do these things that do bring us more joy. But we also should have those things we can bring into just our day-to-day life as well. All right. And the last strategy of the day. So just like our electronics need to be fully powered down from time to work better, so do we. So we live in a culture of go, 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 where we feel we must respond to all emails and texts instantaneously. And it has this feeling like we can never disconnect, like we're going to miss out on something or we'll get in trouble if we disconnect. So whether you've put out an out of office on, whether you buddy up with somebody to cover each other off, or simply let people know, hey, you know, my phone is going down at 7 p.m. tonight. I will talk to you tomorrow, so that they're aware. I strongly encourage you this holiday season to find a way, find some time to disconnect completely. And also, if you're going from work to relaxation mode, can you create a ritual to signal to your brain that you're done work for the day? You know, can you walk around the block? Can you change your clothes? Even doing jumping jacks can work. You know, do 10 jumping jacks to signal to your brain to help it shut off, and your body and mind will thank you. Okay, so far we've talked about what burnout is, how to recognize it, and the strategies to beat it. And you're probably thinking, awesome, Shannon, but I have no freaking time in my schedule, or like, how am I supposed to do this? And that's what we're going to cover next. So one of the first steps in creating change and sticking to it is understanding what could come out of it, what great things would make us want to work for it. And so for this exercise, we're going to focus on two of our limited resources, which are energy and time. And don't worry, I'll be actually sending a handout after this through NABS with a recap of how to beat burnout. You'll see that in a minute, plus these questions. So you can take these questions away, and hopefully today, because again, we're not great at following through on things like this notoriously. So you can take these questions away, but what you want to do is really come up with a great reason and, you know, strategies around what would you do with more energy and time? How would you feel if you had more energy and time? And what would change personally and professionally? And you want to make sure you're landing on something that's really motivating, that's really exciting, so that you are more likely to start new habits or follow through on any action steps. Okay. And for everyone who says, I have no time at all, this is for you. Luckily, there is one thing that every human being has in common on this planet, and that is that we all have the same 24 hours in a day. But what differs is how we spend them. And I know timesheets are a pain in the ass for those in the agency world, but trust me, this is a timesheet you're going to want to do. And prior to doing, I did this exercise for the first time a few years ago. And prior to doing this, I always claimed I had no time to exercise. I had no time to make dinner. I had no time to read, you know, anything that, you know, I would do for myself, I had no time for. And then I did this exercise. So what this exercise is you take a look at how you currently spend the 168 hours in a week, and you break it down. So you look at sleep, eating, working, family time, exercise, TV watching, TikToking, scrolling on social media, all of those things. and you break them down and you put them in buckets. And you have to be honest. You know, when I did this, I remember I was mortified at how much time I spent watching TV. And it was like embarrassing to put, 3 hours a day times 7. Holy crap, right? But you have to look at this honestly. And then what you want to do is look at how you would like to be spending the 168 hours. Do you have any hours that are unaccounted for? That you could start implementing some of these strategies. And then I know there are many of you here too, who are really busy, who have really big jobs, and it's your 168 hours are full. Is there anything you could do a little bit differently? Could you wake up that extra early, a little bit earlier each day? Could you substitute, one thing for another thing, just to be able to tweak your weekly schedule so it's something more balanced and what you would enjoy? Okay. Next, so taking into account the 168 hours exercise, what is your definition of balance? And this is different for everyone. Some of you on here may love working. You may, that may be what you're most passionate about. And that's great. So having a higher number of hours for the work bucket is wonderful. Some of you may get resentful if you do work too many evenings, and so that you don't feel like you're in balance. So really, this is super personal to everybody, and knowing what's your definition of balance. And then the next step is looking at, the 2 exercises, that how you spend your time and your definition of balance, and looking at what do you need to change or let go of to have more balance in your life. Do you have to have some difficult conversations, at home or at work, so you can get that balance into your life? What does that look like for you? And just to recap, I will be sharing these questions with you afterwards for anyone who wants to take longer and do them. Okay, so to recap what we've done so far. So we have talked about the causes. We've talked about the signs of burnout, gave you the strategies both for at work and at home. And next, you're going to commit to a plan. So you're going to set an intention, and maybe you're looking forward to 2022. What is your intention? Do you want more work-life balance? Do you want to feel healthier? Do you want a promotion? Whatever it looks like for you, but set an intention around, how you want to spend your time, your energy, your focus. And then, why do you want this? What will having that in your life do for you? And if it is, say, more around balance or beating burnout or feeling more energized, what strategies from here, or any other ones? I know there's lots of other strategies out there, but what strategies can you use to implement to get to your goal? And then what do you need to change or let go of to get there? Once you have your plan, the next part is key. I don't know if you guys are aware of the stat, 80% of New Year's resolutions fail by March. So it's the follow through that gets really tricky. So here is where you want to take inspired action. You want to put the strategies to work. And a couple of ways that you can, up your follow through, have an accountability partner. Whether you work with a coach or you have a partner at work, or you pick a family member or friend, but pick that person who will actually hold you accountable and won't be like, it's okay, you'll get it next week. You want someone who's actually going to help you follow through with your goals. And then no one said any of this is set in stone. So say you're trying one thing, at work or at home, and it's not working for you, tweak it, try a different one. You have to find what works for you, because that is what will be motivating. And that is what you will follow through on. Okay, so we're going to do one more poll, and then we'll be wrapping up in just a couple minutes. Let me pull this up. All right. Oh, and we have the gift cards coming too at the end. So make sure you stick around. All right, so poll number 2. Do you feel like 2022 will be better than 2021? Awesome. Last call. Anyone? Anyone? Okay. Yes. Wow. That's amazing. 73% yes, 7% no, 20% are not sure. Sorry, I'm not sharing it. There you go. Now I'm sharing it. Okay. This is awesome. And yeah, you know what? Had we said the same about last year, we probably would have said the same. And it was off to a bit of a rocky start, but things are looking better for 2022. And you can tell from all of your answers. Amazing. So thank you for answering. Okay. So I would not be a good coach if I didn't give some action steps, some homework for all of you. So in this moment, and feel free to put it in the chat, but you do not have to. I would love to know, what 2 or 3 action steps are you committed to taking after this session? And part 2 of that is, who can hold you accountable? So write these down, take a minute, and think about what action steps you are going to take from today. Awesome. Okay. That'll also be on your handout that you can do in case you didn't get a chance to finish it right now. I did want to share, we'll get to the gift cards in a second, but I did want to share how to find me. So if anyone's interested in following me, you can find me. It's Path to Presence Wellness Coaching. My email is shannon@pathtopresence.ca. My website is pathtopresence.ca. You can find me on LinkedIn as Shannon Talbot. And on Instagram, I'm also pathtopresence.ca. And my contact details will be included on the tip sheet as well. And I also want to give a special offer to all of you and your companies to save 10% off from now until anyone who contacts me between now and December 31st on all of my services. So I do one-on-one coaching, I do small group coaching, I do speaking, and I do workshops. And really, I customize all of my programs to suit the needs of my clients. So please reach out to me. I would love to hear from you and see if there's any way I can be of help with either you personally or your team or your company. And now let's get on to the exciting part. So who wants to win a prize? And what we're going to do is, I have 3 gift cards, and we will let the winners choose what gift card they like. So you have a choice of Starbucks, Tim's, or LCBO. Sorry, LCBO for Ontario. And we can always come up, if you're outside of Ontario, we could come up with another one potentially as well. So what the rules of the game are, I have 3 questions, and I would love for you to put your answers in the chat. And the first person who answers wins the prize, if you're right. If you're not right, we will move on to the next person. Okay, so the first question is to name 2 signs of burnout. Oh, all right. You guys are fast. Yeah, so, and I apologize if I don't pronounce your name, Sheila Rose, fatigue and insomnia. So you are, Alicia, thank you so much. Yours were great. Yours are great contributors just to burnout. Okay, so Sheila Rose, we will be in contact with you through NABS to make sure we get you your gift card. Okay, second question. What are 2 strategies to beat burnout? So whether it's workplace or personal, but what are 2 strategies that you could use to beat burnout? Sleep and boundaries. Monique. Awesome, Monique. You our winner number 2. Amazing. You guys are good. You guys were paying attention. It's awesome. Look at all your answers. Okay. And the third one is a totally random question that has nothing to do with my talk, because why not? It's the holidays. Which country has the most vending machines per capita? Does anybody know? Sorry, I have to scroll up. You guys are fast. Okay, Hannah, Japan. Yes. Amazing. Okay, wow, you guys are really quick at this. Yeah, I would have thought the US too, but yeah, it's Japan as well. Okay. So thank you so much. Thank you to Louise and Mark at NABS, and thank you to all of you for taking time out of this busy season. I hope you're leaving this session feeling a bit better equipped to deal with this busy season, and I'm wishing you a safe and happy holidays. Now I'll turn it back over to Louise.
Thanks, everyone. We'll send the follow-up email, the recording of the session, so you can share with friends, family, watch again. And if you have any questions for Shannon, her contact information will be in the email that we'll send out as soon as we've got the video ready. Wishing everyone a restful, unplugged, happy holidays from NABS. And we look forward to seeing you next year as we launch some more programs to help us all. Take care.
Bye.